do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you. Please be seated.
Okay, thank you.
Please state your name for the record.
Kaelyn Ford.
Ms. Ford, good morning.
Good morning.
Could you tell the jury where you currently are employed?
I work at Albuquerque Police Department.
And what do you do for them?
I'm a crime scene specialist.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that for the Albuquerque Police Department?
About 2 years.
All right. Where were you working in 2021?
Here at Greenville County Forensics
And what specific role?
as a forensic technician.
And could you describe for the jury what kind of actions you take, what your duties are as a forensic technician when you were with the Greenville County Sheriff's Office?
So we respond to crime scenes within the county limits. Depending on the crime scene, we can do things such as take photographs, process for fingerprints, collect evidence, just depending on what that specific scene is.
So it's safe to say that collection of evidence on specific crime scenes is one of your primary roles?
Correct.
And same thing would be taking pictures in accordance with that?
Yes.
duty? Were you in that role on October 13th of 2021?
I was.
And how are you involved with the present case specifically related to the crime scene on October 13th of 2021?
I was the primary crime scene investigator for this case.
Okay. So you were tasked with processing the home at 122 Canebreak?
I was.
And in your role as a forensic technician, are you subjected to trainings and continued education for that role?
Yes, I have my bachelor's in science and forensic and investigative science. In the past, I've held certifications in bloodstain pattern analysis and fingerprint analysis, and I am currently part of a specialized unit called the Major Crime Scene Team in Albuquerque that responds to all homicides and officer-involved incidents.
Approximately how many crime scenes do you process in a given year?
I would say over 400.
Okay. So, can you describe for this jury, specifically related to October 13th of 2021, what your process was on arriving at 122 Canebreak and the steps you took with your specific role?
So when I arrived on scene, I met with officers and detectives on scene just to get a brief run through of what was going on. After that point, myself and officers did an initial walkthrough of the scene just to see the layout of the house and where things were located.
So, when you were doing the layout of the house and going through there, did you take photographs of the outside of the house?
Yes,
And if I showed those to you, would you recognize them?
I would.
Let's show defense counsel what is State's Exhibit 69 through 84. First witness was 69 through 84. Could you take your time, review those, and let me know if those are the pictures that you took at the outside of the Canebreak home?
Yes, these are the photographs that I took of the exterior.
So that was what the Canebreak home looked like when you arrived on the scene October 13th of 2021?
Yes.
Your Honor, this time the state would move into evidence State's Exhibit 69 through 84.
Counsel?
No objection, Your Honor.
All right. 69 through 84 comes in.
Ms. Ford, I'm going to go through these with you. And if you like, I have a pointer here if you need to use it. Starting with State's Exhibit 69. State's Exhibit 69, a picture of.
So that is a photograph of the gray Lexus that was parked in the driveway.
Were you able to identify in the course of the investigation there who was driving the gray Lexus that day?
Yes, it was the victim.
Showing you State's Exhibit 70.
That was the red Mercedes that was parked in the driveway as well.
Who was driving that vehicle?
Mr. Post.
State's Exhibit 71.
That is the front side of the residence showing the windows along the front door.
72.
That is a close-up of the front door.
73.
That is a photograph of the exterior side of the front door handle.
74.
That is the gate on the right side of the residence. If you're standing facing it from the roadway, just showing the gate into the backyard area.
So is that, are you staring at Canebreak Drive there?
Yes,
Is that the red Mercedes in the driveway?
yes.
75.
That is the photograph of the back or side door of the residence.
And at this time, had the initial deputies already gone through the house?
Yes,
76.
that is a photograph of the backyard.
And so would this be looking to the opposite side that we were just reviewing, where the driveway, so
Yeah.
away from the driveway?
Yes, away from the driveway.
77.
That is a photograph if you were standing at that gate that we just viewed, looking at the end of the end of the backyard.
78.
That is just showing a close-up of the creek and what you can see from the backyard.
Okay. We're going to go to State's Exhibit 80.
That is the gate on the opposite side of the house, leading into the backyard.
So that's looking into the backyard.
Yes.
81.
That is just showing another close-up of the backyard along with the second-story porch.
82.
That is a photograph of the nook that is underneath the second-story porch in the back side of the house.
Now you called it a nook.
Yes.
If I'm standing on Canebreak Drive, can I see somebody under there?
No, you cannot.
And if I'm standing, let me go back to State's Exhibit 78. In the backyard there, what was the collection of houses like, I'll say, with relation to the backyard of the house?
It was
Or how close in proximity were other neighbors?
They weren't that close. They were separated by both of their own backyards, including that woodsy area and a creek.
Go to State's Exhibit 83.
So that's just another close-up of that nook area.
State's Exhibit 84.
And now we've moved out into the front yard, and that's just showing a broader photograph of that gate on the left side of the house.
So from where you're standing there, taking State's Exhibit 84, could you see into that nook there that we were just reviewing?
No, you cannot.
After reviewing the outside of the house, did you thereafter go inside the house and do the same process of taking photographs and reviewing the inside of the house?
Yes.
If I showed you those photographs, would you recognize them?
Yes.
I'm going to show defense counsel what is State's Exhibit 40, let me get this right, 30. States 38 through 62, and states 63 and 66. showing you the same. Could you please review those and let me know if those are the photos you took?
Yes, these are the photographs that I took.
So that was the state of the scene when you entered that day?
Yes.
Now, at this time, the state moves into evidence, State's Exhibit 38 through 62, as well as 63 and 66.
That's counsel.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, one moment, please. Your Honor, just subject to our objections that we discussed earlier and the reasons behind so on Exhibits 63 and 66, no other objection.
Okay, and you're protected on the record. So, 38 through 62, comes into evidence as well, 63 and 66.
Same thing, Ford, I'm gonna go through these with you one by one. And walk through the house with you. Showing you State's Exhibit 40.
So that is a photograph of the interior side of the front door, which is in a room that I referred to in my report as the front sitting room.
The city.
Yes.
Exhibit 38.
That is a close-up of the door handle to that front door, showing that it was in the locked position.
State's Exhibit 39.
So this is a photograph of the interior of that front sitting room, where you can see the victim and you can see some apparent drag marks as well.
State's Exhibit 41.
That is just a different view of the same thing, showing there are stains, apparent blood stains on the couch, as well as the pulling underneath of the couch, the drag marks, and you can see right there is one of the flower stems.
So you noted, you said drag marks.
Yes.
In this photo. Could you explain that a little bit more, how you derived that based on the pattern of the blood that is displayed in this photo?
So yes, as I referred to earlier, there's a pool of blood right there underneath of the couch. From that pool of blood, that blood being on the victim's clothing, when she was moved from that original location, it created the drag marks that you can see there on the floor. And then on top of these drag marks right here are what we refer to as drip stains. That just means that an object or person or thing that had blood on it, that blood volume dripped on top of those drag marks.
When you said you identified some flowers or flower stems in this photograph, could you show me specifically where they are? Is this what you're referring to right here?
Yes.
Okay. Showing you State's Exhibit 42.
So that is a close-up of the victim's right hand, mainly noting the chipped thumb fingernail, which is something that really stood out to me on scene.
Why does that stand out to you?
Broken fingernails can be a sign of a defensive, that the person tried to defend themselves. So that's what that broken fingernail kind of portrayed to me.
Are fingernails something you commonly collect in processing a murder scene?
Yes, it's standard procedure, but considering that one of them was broken, it became apparent that we would really need to focus on those fingernails.
Okay. Showing you State's Exhibit 49.
So this is another photograph of that far wall in the sitting room, again just showing that blood pooling underneath the couch. And then in this photograph you can also see some more of the rose petals and the leaves that are leading into the hallway.
Were you able to find the victim's phone at the scene?
Yes, the victim's phone, it's kind of hard to see. but it is right there in that blood pool.
Right here?
Yes.
Were you able to collect it?
Yes, it was collected.
Who did you subsequently give it to?
I gave it to Investigator Storkman.
Okay. I want to bring your attention specifically to the couch.
Yes.
There. What do you notice about the accumulation of blood, and what the significance of the location of the blood as it relates to the couch?
So with that blood volume being located there, we call that a pooling of blood. The coagulation of the blood tells me that a major artery was hit, and that also that is the site of where the initial incident occurred. Along with that, you can see some disturbances in the blood there that also signifies that the couch was most likely moved after the incident.
Show you States Exhibit 50.
So this is a close-up of that couch and coffee table area, showing the flower stems that were partially located underneath of that orange pillow and underneath the table. And it is also showing additional blood spatter that was caused. The location of that blood spatter, since it goes under the table, and the size and shape of those blood stains showed me that the table was also moved back into place after the incident.
Is that the victim's phone there in the bottom corner?
Yes.
Let me show you States Exhibit 46.
So this is a close-up of those rose petals and leaves that are leading from the doorway to the sitting room from the hallway of the house.
States Exhibit 45.
So that is the view of the sitting room from the hallway, just again showing those rose petals and leaves.
So that's the hallway looking towards the front door?
Yes.
States Exhibit 43.
So this is a photograph of the hallway while standing in the living room, just showing how some of those flower petals go into the hallway, and also the discarded pair of sunglasses that was located in the hallway as well.
Exhibit 47.
This is a photograph from a further point in the living room, again just showing that entryway into the sitting room in the hallway.
So inside, that is the sitting room in that room.
Correct.
I'll show you States Exhibit 51.
So this is a photograph from on top of that console table sitting in the sitting room where the victim's purse had been located, and it's just showing that some of the rose petals and stems had made it onto that table.
States Exhibit 52.
This is showing the victim's purse that I was just referencing, and showing that the rose petals were also inside of her purse.
Ms. Ford, approximately how many murder scenes have you processed?
Say close to 150.
Okay. You ever found flowers near the body?
No.
And I'm just going to go back really quick to 52. To the location of these flowers, were there some found inside her purse?
Yes.
And inside the items on top of the table?
Yes.
States Exhibit 53.
So that's just another vantage point from the sitting room of all of the rose petals and the leaves that were located in that doorway.
I'll show you States Exhibit 54.
So that is a blood stain that was located on the wall by the curtains on that front wall of the sitting room.
Were the curtains opened or closed?
The curtains were closed.
55.
So that is a close-up just with scale of that blood stain. That blood stain to me appears to be what we refer to as a transfer stain, meaning that an object or thing with blood on it touched a surface that did not have blood on it.
56?
That is a close-up of one of the gray sitting chairs next to that window on the front side of the sitting room, just showing the blood drops that had gotten into the surface of that chair.
57?
This shows those blood drips that I was referring to earlier near that gray chair. The reason that those are so significant is because they are farther away from that initial pooling that we saw underneath the couch. So what that means is that the shape of those blood drops tells me they're about 80 to 90 degrees, which means that an object with blood on it was directly over that area of the floor when that blood drop was created.
58? Where is this in that room?
That is over by the wall where those curtains and windows are located.
And that's the same, you're talking about the angle with which this blood was most likely transferred. That's different than what you were saying the drag marks were in the earlier exhibits?
Yes, drip stains are created by a blood drop just falling in motion from gravity, kind of if you had a nosebleed and the blood was just falling out of your nose. Because that area of the living room was so far away from the initial blood pool, that was not caused from the incident. It was most likely caused, again, like I said, from an object or a thing.
Please, the court, I would object to the opinion testimony that's being offered. I mean, this witness has not been offered as an expert, nor do crime scene techs get offered as or qualified as experts. The pictures all speak for themselves, so I would object to opinion testimony being offered.
Gotcha. She's testified to her experience in processing hundreds of these scenes and the training she's had. While this is not being offered as expert testimony, she's speaking to her rationally based perception of the angle that these blood droplets came from. As to Mr. Moyer's concern, it's right for cross-examination if he wants to offer a contrary opinion or pry into why she derives her opinion, but she's simply speaking to her experience.
I'm going to overrule your objection. It's noted.
So as I was saying, those blood drops were most likely created from an object or a thing that was in that area.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 60.
So that is showing a clump of hair suspected to be the victim's that was found in an area of blood in the sitting room.
Is that area of blood what you described as the drag marks?
Yes.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 62.
So that is a blood stain that was located on that interior side of the front door. That is, once again, what we refer to as a transfer stain, meaning that an object that had blood on it touched a surface that did not.
Finally, State's Exhibit 66.
So this is a photograph of that front sitting room again, where you can see the victim that's located at the end of that drag trail, and additionally another smaller pool of blood, just signifying that wounds were still bleeding at that time.
So you spoke to flowers that were found at the crime scene. Did you collect those and identify those?
I did.
If I showed you pictures of those, would you recognize them?
Yes.
Show defense counsel what's marked as State's Exhibit 85 through 93. showing you what is State's Exhibit 85 through 93. Are those photographs that you took of the flowers, or some of the photographs, I should say?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time the state moves into evidence State's Exhibit 85 through 93.
No objection, Your Honor.
Without objection, 85 through 93 comes into evidence.
I'll show you State's Exhibit 86.
So that is a bundle, those are bundled stems with a rubber band that were located underneath of that orange pillow in the living room.
So that rubber band was on those stems,
Yes,
on collection.
yes.
87.
That is just a different view of those same stems showing the leaves.
'89.
So that is a close-up of one of the flowers that was found on the sitting room floor.
You said wildflower.
Yes, it is a wildflower,
That's
correct?
not a rose?
No,
State's Exhibit 90.
that is just a close-up of that same wildflower, just showing the coloring on it.
I'm going to expand on that a little bit. I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 93. Are those the same stem?
No,
So the stem on the right is not a rose?
no, it's a wildflower.
State's Exhibit 90.
Just another close-up of that wildflower.
Approximately how many of the wildflowers did you collect?
I'm not sure.
6, say several.
Yes.
In your processing of the house and looking through everything, did you find any vases,
No, I did not.
containers for flowers?
No.
Okay. And in processing that house, I assume, did you take several collections for potentially DNA testing or blood testing?
Yes.
What about fingerprint lifting?
Yes.
Now, if someone's wearing gloves, do they leave fingerprints?
No.
After you process this scene, what are your next steps upon leaving Canebreak?
So I secured all the evidence that I collected, and then the next day I responded to the autopsy.
Okay. Did you take some pictures at the autopsy?
I did.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 109 and 110. Approaching you with 109 and 110. Are these two of the photographs you took at the autopsy?
Yes.
What do they show?
They're showing the decedent's hand, left hand, which contains her engagement ring.
Your Honor, at this time the state moves into evidence State's Exhibit 109 and 110.
Without objection.
Without objection, 109 and 110 come into evidence.
What are your duties when you're at the autopsy? What kind of things are you doing there?
So at autopsies, we take additional photographs of the victim and their injuries, as well as collecting clothing, DNA swabs, otherwise known as buccal swabs, fingernail clippings, head hair samples, and pubic hair samples.
Did you collect buccal swabs and fingernail clippings from Miss Parcell?
I did.
If I showed you those collections, would you recognize them?
Yes.
I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 94, 95, 96, and 97. showing you 94, 95, 96, and 97. Starting with 94. What is 94?
94 is the fingernail clippings from the victim's right hand.
And could you describe to the jury, when you're taking these fingernail clippings at an autopsy, what is that process like?
So we have a sterile set of nail clippers that we remove from the packaging. We then place a piece of paper towel underneath of the victim's hands. I use those fingernail clippers to clip the clippings from her left hand, and then I do the same process with a different paper towel from her right hand. Those are packaged individually, and then the fingernail clippers are packaged and submitted as well.
And is that what you did here
Yes.
with both her right and her left hand with respect to 94 and 95?
Yes.
What about 96 and 97? What are those?
So these are the buccal swabs that I collected from the victim at the autopsy.
I know we've had some testimony to that effect, but what exactly did you do there to collect those?
So we take a sterile cotton swab and we swab the inside of the person's cheek to collect those cheek cells and get DNA from them.
And you collected 2 of those?
I did.
All right, at this time, the state moves into evidence. State's Exhibit 94 through 97.
No, I object to the introduction at this time, in that the chain of custody has not been established. These are fungible items, so it would not be proper until the chain is established.
Will you be putting them in later to another witness?
We'll have testimony through another witness, but she is the collector of these items.
Well, and until that time, they'll just remain armed.
Understood.
Put them in.
On taking these samples, being the fingernail samples and the buccal swabs, what thereafter do you do with them?
I take them and I submit them to our property and evidence section.
Presumably for testing?
Yes.
Yeah, I have no further questions for this witness at this time.
Any cross-examination?
Good morning, Ms. Ford. I just have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Just about those flowers that were talked about quite a bit during your testimony. First off, the ones that you testified are not roses. Was any determination made as to what particular species of flowers, what kind of flowers they were?
Just wildflowers.
When you say wildflowers, what exactly do you mean by that?
Things that you could just find in someone's yard.
Okay.
Just wildly grown in a field.
Okay, and that's just based on your training, or is that based on just your experience of just knowing about flowers?
Just experience about flowers, yeah.
Okay, and the way they were positioned in the house, they were just kind of randomly scattered throughout the house, right?
They were scattered, yes.
Yes, I mean, they weren't in any kind of arrangement or pattern or anything like that.
Yep, they were just scattered.
Okay, one moment, please. Oh, and I'm sorry, just to be clear, when I said scattered, we're talking about the roses and the wildflowers. They were just randomly scattered throughout the house, right?
They were scattered throughout the front sitting room area, yes.
Okay, and so they went basically out into the hallway just a little bit, but it was mainly in that area where the deceased was found. Correct?
Yes, there were some in the front of the sitting room, and then there were some located near the decedent as well.
Okay. And again, not in any kind of pattern or arrangement or anything like that?
No.
That's all. Thank you.
No redirect, Your Honor. We would ask to recall this witness at a later time.
And that would be allowed. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state